I guarantee that this video right here will be the best 3D floor plan video you've ever seen on YouTube. And just to prove how casually serious I am, I put on a Cuts polo just for this video. What's going on, guys? My name's David Tomic and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about 3D architectural floor plans and what you need to do to produce some of the best in the industry. Now, we could easily go through this using an old floor plan, but I want to go through this from start to finish with you guys, showing you exactly what you need to be thinking of as you're actually developing those plans, so you don't have to go back and waste a hell of a lot of time redoing work for no reason. We're going to be starting with archiCAD 25 and moving over to Twinmotion to produce the best quality we possibly can. Now, without further ado, let's turn around to these two screens and get on with today's video. So like always, we start with the Australian Select template. Again, feel free to use whatever template is available to you and in your country. I personally use archiCAD 25 as my program of choice because I know archiCAD the best. It's what I use day in, day out as an architect here in Western Australia. Once archiCAD 25 is open, we really want to start thinking about the fundamentals of our design. So we're creating a 3D floor plan, which means we're thinking about the materials, the textures, the spaces, and everything surrounding that building. So let's start by pressing Command 7 to open up our story settings, inserting a story below, typing in footings, and dropping that down minus 172 millimeters. That allows us to create a footings layer and actually start creating our slabs, which might be our carpet, our tiles, or anything in between. So let's click OK, double click on our ground floor plan, and let's just make something very simple, nothing overly too complex. So let's start by using a generic wall. We're going to go to our walls external. For something different, because you guys know I like to go with the stud frame, let's go a brick veneer with an insulated stud panel. Now all I'm going to do is simply start drawing an outline of a building. The first click, and then I'm going to click P to flip my wall. By holding Shift and pressing D, I'm able to actually start typing in some numbers instead. So let's go 5 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, maybe 2.5 meters, 3 meters back, 5 more meters, and then I'm just gonna align it to create the outside of what my building is gonna be. Now, I have absolutely no idea what I'm creating. I'm just genuinely going with the flow to show you guys what we need to be thinking about throughout the entire process. So as you can see, we've used a brick veneer wall system, so brick on the outside, timber on the inside. If we come to our 3D window, you'll see that straight away we have our materials and our textures shown up. If I was to create a 3D floor plan of this, you would see the bricks and you would see some sort of gray interior. Now, this is where we have to start thinking about the process and start thinking logically. Do we want any feature wall panels? Where's the bed head? Where's the tiles going to go? What sort of things actually are happening on those walls themselves? Or are they just plasterboard? So let's just go back to our ground floor plan, open up our object tool, and let's just drop a bed in so we can start manipulating and moving some spaces around and understanding scale. I'm not going to go ahead and change all these settings. I'm just simply going to change that to a black outline because I hate the green, and I'm going to change the objects to general. So now, as you can see, we have our bed. Let's pop our bed over here. That looks like a reasonable sized bedroom, if not even an overkill. So what I'll actually do is now start drawing another wall internally. With a brick veneer, we're going to be using our 90mm stud internal partition. So I'm going to draw one wall here, and by pressing Command D, moving that down, let's call it 1400mm so we can insert a robe behind. Again, Command D to drag our object and changing the position of our bed. I'm going to hold the Alt button to start creating a new timber wall and drag it all the way to the end. So now coming back into 3D, you'll see we've started to create our actual spaces. We have our bedroom, we have our robe, and we have our main living spaces over here. I'll start to manipulate this outside wall as well. So Command D and dragging it in line with our other wall, selecting our 3 exterior walls and pressing Command I to join them, and then just realigning those walls so we have a little bit of freedom. I'm going to hold the Alt button and use this space here to create our bathroom. Now I'm hoping that this is about 2 meters deep. At 1890 is probably okay. It's not the best, but it will do for now. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this bed, come across and type in shower. Now archiCAD in general doesn't really have very good shower objects at all. So I'm just going to use this shower cabin for the purposes of this video and drop it into where I think it needs to be. I will extend it significantly larger so it goes across the whole space. Duplicate it once more, find a vanity and click OK. So as you can see, I'm starting to create the actual bathroom layout space, and finally all we need is a bathtub for this shower to be complete. Now if I rotate that to position, drag it all the way over here, drag it in line, then I can utilize this additional space on the other side for a toilet. So let's copy that across once more and create a toilet. Any toilet for the purposes of this will absolutely be fine. So once again, we're just going to drag that, center that 450 and make a new wall 1 meter away. So as you can see, now we have our bathroom, we have our bedroom, and we have most of our living spaces. Again, absolutely no idea what this is going to look like in the end. I'm genuinely just plotting spaces where they think they should go. And as you can see, we have the fundamentals of our room. So because this is our wet area, what I'd like to do is actually cut this wall using the axe tool. So it splits in 2 different directions, and then do the same with the exterior wall here. So I've done that for a specific reason. I can now select these 2 outside walls, go Command T to open up their settings, change the interior surface to tiles 15 by 15. And click OK. As you can see, that material texture has changed very quickly, very rapidly to something very different. So we can manipulate that in Twinmotion a little bit later on. With this partition wall, I'm going to change both the interior and the exterior to tiles 15 to match those tiles over there. And with the bathroom toilet wall, I'm going to simply just change the interior wall to tiles 15. Finally, I'll repeat that process for this hallway wall to the interior as well, tiles 15 and OK. So now we have our bathroom, which is floor to ceiling tiles in all the wet areas. Our bedrooms, for example, don't need to be anything like this. They can simply be Stratco white rough or Stratco white fine will do. It doesn't really matter because we're going to be changing the materials in Twinmotion, but we want it to have a unique color. When saying that, I'm simply going to go across and paint that titanium white and click OK so that I know I've changed these bedroom walls to white titanium. Then I'm actually going to change this feature wall to some sort of nice vertical mahogany timber. So we have our feature wall in our bedroom. Now I do know that Twinmotion has much better objects than this, so we might actually replace these objects in Twinmotion as we work through this tutorial. Coming back to our ground floor plan, what we're going to need to do is actually introduce a hallway. So let's extend that by 1200 to create a hallway and merge these spaces here. This might be a storeroom, it might be a scullery, it might be a boot room, it might even be a spare bathroom, which would make logical sense to keep all our wet areas in the same space. So what I might actually do is simply copy this toilet across and copy this hand basin across as well, making that only 1500 wide so we have a little bit of space, and then I'll extend my hallway all the way across. Now to make better use of this space and actually make it ensuite rather than just a standalone bathroom, I'll extend this wall here 1200 millimeters back, join those 2 walls there and extend our main wall. Now because I know this wall here has the same settings as this, I'm simply going to copy that across, and I'm then also going to cut my wall in line with the bathroom so that I can change the internal materials to just tiles. As you can see, the formation of this bathroom now doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't work with what we're trying to achieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this back to a 1 meter by 1 meter shower and rotate it around. So now if I place my shower in line with the corner and adjust the rest of my room accordingly, I can actually start to gain a little bit of extra unrequired space. Now coming back into our 3D, you'll see again everything shifted a little bit. We have our tiles missing from that wall, so I'll simply just merge those two walls by pressing Command I. This wall over here definitely does not need to be tiles at all, so I'll take both of those walls and I'll paint them white titanium to match the bedroom walls like we have over here. This wall being on the inside of the hallway, I will change again so it matches to white titanium. Now, like I said early on in the video, it is very important that we're thinking about these textures, these materials, these ideas as we're actually drawing and as we're creating, because the more time we spend now changing these materials, the less time it's going to take us in Twinmotion. You'll see that this part of the tutorial will take up probably about 75% of the time, whilst the Twinmotion section will take 25%. If not even less if you take into account all my rambling non-stop in between these sections. Now, coming back to the ground floor plan, I've created a dead amount of space over here, which we absolutely don't need. So let's delete both of those there, extend our wall with tiles all the way across, extend our wall with no tiles all the way across so that we can create some sort of entryway. Now let's duplicate this hand basin and start typing in our actual living amenities. So we've got a sofa which we can implement anywhere in our design. This will most likely be our kitchen. I'd assume somewhere over here would be our lounge, and this will probably be our 1-bedroom alfresco. So again, huge space, overkill entirely for the design we're going for. So we're going to continue to reduce it as we go through. So let's simply just create a small little lounge room over here that might be utilized in everyday life. Okay, so we have 3 little couches. I'm also going to create a slab, which I'm just going to go user defined, open up those settings, change that to 500 millimeters, which will be, I don't know, some sort of TV unit in this instance. I'll probably just leave it as plywood for the time being and overwrite all those materials to pine horizontal. Works really well for me. And then I'm going to create a 450 by 21 TV unit, centering it in line with our couch. Finally, I'm just going to create a TV that I can mount on the wall. There we go. I have a flat panel TV rotated 180 degrees, mount it directly on the wall and center it to our couch again, so it actually makes some sort of logical sense. This TV unit is going to drive me crazy if I leave it in blue, so I will change it to black. And then what I'll do is simply replicate that 2 times, once for a rug, once for a coffee table. So let's go 1200 by 1200. That could be our coffee table in the middle. I'm going to make this only 10 millimeters and 10 millimeters above 0. Simply changing that to carpet 01 for the time being. Coming back into our 3D to see how we're coming along. And as you can see, we need to lift our TV unit and our TV so they're actually sitting in a much nicer space, as well as our TV unit, which is hidden underneath our carpet. I will reduce that one down to about 300. So it is a little bit smaller than our TV unit. But as you can see now, our fundamental basics are starting to come into effect, and we're starting to create our floor plan in 3D as we're really looking for that impact, that wow factor at the end of the day. Now that we have our living room, we're gonna need our dining room, which is always very simple because archiCAD has some pretty decent objects for dining room. You just simply type in table, not dining. Scroll down to the rectangular table, archiCAD 25, that'll do for now. Clicking OK and dragging it into the position it needs to be. Now I've just noticed that our bathroom still doesn't work, so what I'm going to do is simply remove that wall and switch out my bathtub and my toilet location. So the toilet isn't in its own little space, but it's in that main ensuite space. To create our kitchen, I'm not going to focus on cabinetry or anything like that. I'm simply just going to draw a 600 deep bench top, making that 900 high and 900 deep. I'm going to create that out of pure concrete and repeat the same process 1 meter ahead here with a 300 millimeter overhang. Now that overhang is only going to be about 100 millimeter thick concrete instead of the full 900. So you can actually get some sort of bar stool under it. And there you go. We have our concrete bench on this side, our concrete bench on this side, a nice little dining room over here, a lot of dead space that we could definitely just start adjusting as we see fit so that we don't have a lot of dead space for absolutely no reason in this design. Now, I do want to quickly point out that this design has absolutely nothing to do with actually designing something in archiCAD. It's more so to show you the actual floor plan process and what you need to be aware of as you're designing. So again, that has now changed its wall texture, so we need to make sure the textures are correct. Overall, that works relatively well. I think we need to import a couple appliances into our kitchen, and then we're more or less ready to take this into Twinmotion. We just need to pop a couple windows in and a few doors as well. So let's simply start by introducing a sink into our project. This sink will do for the time being. I'm going to place that smack bang in the middle of this concrete bench. Then I'm going to look for a cooktop, placing that on the opposite side of the bench in the corner over here. Second last, we're going to need a fridge. This 17 side-by-side refrigerator will do, so we'll just download and import that into our archiCAD project now. I'm not really sure where the 25 object is. I'm sure it is somewhere. It's probably called something completely different for a dumb reason. I used personally the 4D library for the fridges and objects, cooktops, things like that. So I'm not 100% familiar with the native archiCAD options for this. Now I'm going to introduce my fridge here on the side, move that 120 millimeters so I can actually return that side wall and bring the bench all the way across. Finally, I'm just going to create a small pantry on the right hand side. And that's pretty much it for space and what we need. As you can see, we've introduced a very yellow fridge. I'm just quickly gonna change all of that to stainless steel and click OK so it isn't this horrendously ugly looking thing. Now, as you can see, we are missing our floor textures, we're missing our materials, so we want to go back to our ground floor, press Control down, right click on our ground and go show as trace reference. So now we're drawing on our footings layer, we're creating the actual floor content itself, from tiles to carpet to vinyl flooring and everything in between. We're really looking to create that here and now. So simply by opening the slab tool once again and pressing Command T, we can start changing it up. We're going to start with 100 millimeters thick. We're going to go to concrete structural, because that's what it is. And let's start with carpet in the bedroom. I used carpet 1 on this rug, so I want to use a different carpet material for this space here. Next, I'm going to draw the space through the bathroom and change that to tiles white 15 by 15 so it matches the wall tiles. And finally, this space here I believe is going to be some sort of timber flooring. So let's go light oak for the time being. And if we wanted to create a little veranda over here, we could once again copy that and change that to concrete. So if we come into our 3D view, you see now that all of these floors need to be lifted 172 millimeters, which was our Command 7 story settings that we adjusted. And we now have the fundamental basics of what we need for a 3D floor plan. All I would add to this is a simple mesh on the ground floor. So if we go to our slab, go to our mesh and start creating some spaces in between. Let's make this grass perfect. And then I'm just going to introduce a driveway there. Make sure that's only about 4 meters, cutting it out of that green landscaping space, redefining it as concrete so that our materials and textures are correct. Coming back into 3D, we'll see that our floor plan is starting to come together. Now I do want this to be perfectly symmetrical all around, so I'm going to make that 10 meters. I'm going to make this side again 10 meters and repeat it all the way around. Now if we come back into 3D, perfectly centered into this floating little 3D floor plan space. All we need to do now is come back into our ground floor plan and start introducing some doors and windows. So simply by clicking on door 25, we have a standard door. We might want it to look a little bit nicer, so let's change up the doors and start introducing them where we actually need them. I'm just going to keep clicking through. We probably don't need too many doors in this actual project here, so we'll need 2 doors either side of the bed so we can make our walk-in robe over here. That is one thing I didn't do. I didn't actually create any cabinetry, so let's start by introducing this walk-in robe system here, and coming back into 3D, it just gives us a little bit more character to play with. And now that's basically all the doors we need in this project. It is pretty limited. We can actually create one more door here as the entrance statement door. So if we wanted to change that up, we could make it a nice big glass French door. That one will do. Let's make it 1200 wide, so it's a nice statement piece, and 2.4 high. So it definitely looks different to all the doors in our project. And if we fly around, you'll see that doors come into place. Next, we want to make sure all our internal walls that need to be plasterboard are the same material. So once again, coming back into our materials, going to titanium white, pressing OK, and all our painted white plasterboard materials are now the same texture. Coming back into our ground floor plan, let's go into our window settings, open our window settings, and start introducing a couple different windows. Let's use that window over here. I'm not really too worried about what the windows are, what they look like, or anything of that sort. I'm just merely introducing windows for the sake of windows. Next, I'd like a sliding glass door to both our patio and our outdoor space in our bedroom. So I'll go into sliding. I will find our nice double external sliding doors. I'll introduce them here, and I'll also introduce them here. So I would like to make these 2.4 high, exactly the same as our main door, and I'll probably make them about 2.4 wide because what they are now is a little bit too small for my personal preference. Moving them into place, coming back into our 3D view, you'll see that we have all the doors and windows in place. Now, again, I don't like the orange, but I left them all there on purpose. If you press Command F, you'll open up our Find and Select tool. By clicking the copy settings and then the plus, it's automatically going to highlight all the doors in the project. We can come to our floor plan marker, override object pen, and change that to black. Clicking OK, repeating the same steps for the windows themselves. We can quickly and easily change all of the windows and doors without having to fumble around and individually change those line weights. Now, as you can see, we basically have everything we need except a couple small windows in our bathroom. So let's simply recreate this. Some small little window there, another small little window here, and we'll probably adjust them in the settings together at the same time. So let's make that a simple panel glass, clicking OK. So we don't really have to worry about them too much. I will probably go in there once more and just change the material of that glass to glass satin so we can actually differentiate those two windows from the rest of the windows in this project. Now, what I'm going to do is save this project, install the Twinmotion plugin because I've just realized I don't have the plugin installed in archiCAD 25, and jump to Twinmotion in this tutorial. Now, I just want to take a quick short interlude to point out the fact that there are some great resources in the description below. There's everything from title blocks for archiCAD to construction checklists so you know exactly what needs to go on a page. There is even a fantastic Discord group that is growing every single day with all sorts of architectural professionals, students, and really anybody in the industry, and they are constantly helping each other out. There's question after question of archiCAD, how do I do this? How do I fix that? And without fail, somebody is there to save the day. So that community is fantastic. It is growing so well, and I'm so proud of that little Discord chat. It is 100% free if you do want to join it. If you want a copy of the archiCAD files that I create on YouTube, then you can simply join the Patreon link down below, and through the Discord group chat, you'll have access to every single archiCAD tutorial I make on YouTube. And of course, as always, there is the Cuts Clothing discount link just below that if you want to grab a good Cuts Clothing t-shirt. Genuinely, you can look back through any of my videos. They are by far one of the only t-shirts I've ever worn on this channel. They are just truly absolutely incredible. I know they're a bit pricey, but they're 100% worth the price tag. Anyway, I know that's enough of my face. Let's turn back around. Okay, so now that we've transferred this project over into Twinmotion, we can start manipulating and playing with this 3D floor plan concept. First of all, we want to start using the materials on the side and actually utilizing what we have. So let's start by going materials, and I always like to start by changing the actual base of this to plastic, red, glossy, and changing that to 100% pure white. Clicking OK, getting rid of the reflection entirely. That way, when we export it, we have a nice clean white slate to play with. Next, we want to come into our man-made materials, so ground, man-made, and change our driveway material to a nice concrete texture. Then we can go back to our nature and change our grass to something a bit more realistic. And we're going to follow that process all the way through, basically replacing all the materials that archiCAD has provided with some really nice, unique materials from Twinmotion. So as you can see, that recycled brick right there is probably a little bit too small. I'd double that in size, and we have a nice recycled brick. Next, I'd like to change all the tiles in the project. So we go into our tiles, and I will make them all generically the same. I'll probably make them something a little bit darker, a little bit moodier, and quite large in scale as well. So we actually have a little bit of texture, a little bit of differentiation in the project already. Now I want this wall to be a nice timber. So I'll use this dark timber, go to scale, and rotate that 90 degrees. You probably won't be able to see it until I zoom in, and I'll probably change that back to 0 degrees so it's a vertical pattern instead of a horizontal one. That gives us a nice little bit of contrasting material in that bedroom that we can utilize. Next, we're going to jump into our kitchen, go to our metal, change our fridge to brushed aluminium, do the same, and also for our hot plate. Now, as you can see, these are all flickering and not coming through correctly. So I'll just quickly go back into archiCAD and cut these two out. Now, as you can see, that material there is not cutting through all the way. So we're gonna go into settings, and we're gonna make that two-sided so we see that sink in its full entirety. If you ever have a curved object in archiCAD, in Twinmotion, that doesn't work, just simply make it two-sided. Now I've also noticed that I've cut that out way too much, so I'll go back into archiCAD and fix that. Now I have actually removed that table accidentally. I can't be bothered going back into archiCAD and adding it again, so I will just simply go into our living spaces, find a table, look for a nice Twinmotion table that's probably even better than the one we had in archiCAD. This orange one will do quite nicely, give it a little bit of a color pop. Next, we're gonna come back in and update our wall material. So if we scroll down to wall coverings and simply drop our plaster on there, we have a little bit more texture on our wall. We're also gonna find a nice fabric material that we can change these hideous yellow couches to. Now I'm a pretty basic black and white kind of guy, so I will simply pick a nice white fabric and I'll change that to a little bit of a darker gray. I'll probably do the same thing with the actual carpet below, so I'll use a nice light gray shaggy rug and I'll make it a dark black. So as you can see now, it's slowly coming together. We're almost there in what we need to do to actually create this final 3D floor plan. I do want to also change the floor itself, so I don't like the floor. I'm going to scale it up, and I will rotate this one 90 degrees so the floor tiles go the other way. I'm going to change my concrete bench to a nice bare base concrete, and I'm also going to change the material of these doors to a nice black brushed aluminium, and the glass finally as well to a nice reflective glass. So now, as you can see, we have our 3D floor plan starting to come into play. We can see all the different materials, all the different textures, and we can create multiple vistas of the same floor plan so people can actually understand what we're looking at doing. Now, as you can see, I do have a small little courtyard out here, so maybe we introduce another small little round table that can fit out here with some more beautiful colored furniture. Now that's pretty much all we have to do to create our actual architectural 3D floor plan. We've introduced all our elements. I've showcased everything that we need to know in Twinmotion. Last but not least, we're going to actually start by creating our views. So let's close that panel on the side, create our first image. So if we click on image, click the plus button, and we're going to start adjusting and changing the settings, because this is how we make it look really, really good. First of all, let's go to our camera settings and change that maybe a 20mm lens, and zoom out ever so slightly so we can see nothing but green grass. Now, like I said before, I like to keep the white pattern, but in this instance, I'm simply going to drag and drop that grass over the top and align it 100% with the top of our grass so that we don't actually see any white, we just see nice grass. The hardest element of this process is actually aligning your camera settings. Now that I'm happy with my camera settings, I'm going to go back into my image, click my refresh button to refresh that image exactly how it is, go back into more once again, and start adjusting my location and my lighting to make sure it isn't overly harsh and unbearable to see. So first of all, I'm going to go into my location. Let's change it to Perth, Western Australia, just because that is where I am located. Adjust our north point to suit us as best as we need it. I think in this case, it would be nice to see the shadows as they are. I'm going to move it to a summer sun, and I'm going to adjust the actual time of day a little bit as well. Now, finally, I'm going to go back into my image one. I'm going to go to my lighting, and I'm going to go into my advanced settings. I'm going to decrease the ambient lighting requirements to 0.25 so that all of my materials inside aren't overly bright. I'm also going to increase my sun intensity to 30, then change my weather to a little bit cloudy. And then that's basically the first image that we've created. Now, to make sure this exports extremely high quality, we do want to go into more format and change it to Ultra 4K HD. You can bump that up higher to a 8K HD, even 16K, if you do want to let your computer run overnight a little bit longer. I'll repeat that same process, spinning around to the other side of the house. Again, the incredibly difficult part of this is actually just adjusting your camera settings, clicking the create image, and now we have our second image. If I did want to go in here, change the location and adjust that sun in any way, shape or form, I could, but for the time being, I think the sun kind of works just fine. I'll move that down to about 430 so it isn't as bright and glary as it was before. I'll probably change the lighting in this one to 1630 as well, so the time matches identically. I'll go ahead and create 2 more images of each side. And finally, I will create one top-down view. Now, the top-down view is the hardest to create because all of your controls in Twinmotion go out the window when you start going top-down. So take your time to make sure you get the top-down view correct. If you can't get the top-down view perfect, like I can't in this situation, you can adjust that in Photoshop, Lightroom, or any other program that you're efficient in. I will once again just simply change the lighting on this so it is a little bit different to all the others, just so we have some 3D texture happening here. Now, when I'm happy with that, I simply refresh my settings, come down to the export button, go image, select all, and hit export. All right, so that's all for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something today. I hope you were able to get some incredible content for your own personal portfolio. If you did, make sure you smash that like button down below. It genuinely helps with the YouTube algorithm. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Believe it or not, those two actions and those two actions alone will help this video grow so much and help this channel grow as well. Anyway, that is all for me today, guys. So thank you so much for watching, and like always, I'll see you next Monday.